Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep is one of my favorite entries in the series, and it marked the starting point for a lot of mechanics that would shape the series for a long time moving forward, one of these mechanics being the command deck. The command deck was made as an evolution of the card system seen in Rechain of Memories, where instead of requiring a certain combination of cards to perform an action, you simply needed to acquire the action as a command and load it into your deck to use it. And there are a lot of really cool commands that are unique to Birth by Sleep that never return to the series. Commands such as Mind Square, the Surge commands, and Transcendence to name a few. But the ones I personally believe to be the coolest of Birth by Sleep's unique commands are Ice Slide, Thunder Roll, and Fire Wheel. I don't really know what it is about them I like so much, there's just something inherently funny to me about an evasive action that can be used to deal damage. So I had a dark, twisted thought as I was laying in bed one night. Can you beat Birth by Sleep by only using movement commands? The short answer is no. 2 of the 3 playable characters can't even get these commands until at least their second world, and even the third one is gatekept by Master Ericus's silly little orbs. Sadly, Mark Hamill makes it his personal mission in this challenge to stand in the way of greatness not once, not twice, but 3 whole times, and he refuses to budge, no matter how much I beg him to. But taking the long way around for the sake of content, we'll look past these plot holes and pretend everything is okay. Smile. So strap in, get comfy, and I hope you like the square button, because we're going to be pressing it. A lot. Starting with some ground rules, I'll only be able to deal damage through movement commands as soon as I'm able to obtain them. This means no attack, no triangle commands, and no shot locks, as much as I may want to use them. I also decided against using reprisals like the payback and counter commands to really stick to the pure movement idea. The only exception I gave to myself for this challenge was for late game grinding, because if I didn't pull out the big guns, it would take a while. Starting our journey, we choose the Kingdom Hearts Giga Chad Terra. This man is an absolute unit who has traumatized an entire generation of gamers twice, and is one of the 2 characters I mentioned earlier who isn't capable of starting this challenge until he hits his second world. Terra is also unique in this run because his dodge command Slide doesn't get an alternate variant, so he's forced to exclusively use Ice Slide as his primary means of damage. Starting Terra's story, we deal with Luke Skywalker's big balls, commit some war crimes, and fight this boss the exact same way every time. In Dwarf Woodlands, Terra obtains the Air Slide significantly faster than any other character, and I just want to say, this is one of the only reasons this challenge is as interesting as it is. So after some brief grinding, we finally get our hands on the coveted Ice Slide and fight our first boss of the challenge. Now I'll admit, this damage isn't promising, but trust me, it gets better. On to Castle of Dreams, World of Forced Fights. It's actually not too bad since Ice Slide has pretty decent damage output, it just takes a little longer than usual. After some lore and exposition, we find ourselves in the beautiful town of Radiant Garden, where we fight one of the best bosses in the entire franchise. This is also where I realized that Ice Slide can hit twice if you position yourself correctly, and it forever altered my thought process for the rest of this challenge. Now, we are rapidly approaching my first round of childhood trauma with this game, and that is Braig. It's less that I struggle with the fight itself, and more that I didn't know how to meld commands when I first played this game, and critical mode is kinda hard. But we deal with Braig the only way we know how, and move on. This is the part of the game where every character's story starts to take a pretty drastic turn. Terra gets groomed, Ventus gets depressed, and Aqua dies. After a momentary distraction, we enter the games, and I'll be honest, I expected this to go a lot worse than it did. Zack, however, went exactly how I thought it would. Fast forward to Deep Space, and we have to defeat Countless Unversed, and hey, guess what? We have a new movement option, and it works surprisingly well. After that, we have to put Peter Pan in his place, and Sonic Impact starts to show its worth a little more. But enough about him. Terra will get what's coming to him soon enough. Hey look, more Countless Unversed. It's a good thing these things only have 1 HP. We're fighting Dad now, don't ask me why I didn't watch the cutscene. This fight was another troublesome one for my first playthrough as a kid, again in part because of my lack of abilities, but now I am wiser, older, and know how to use abilities, and together with the borderline unfair stagger of Ice Slide, the fight goes pretty well whenever I'm given an opportunity to play my video game. Terra's final fights aren't really that difficult. Vanitas pulls his usual shenanigans of manifesting that your damage simply doesn't exist, but Xehanort goes down relatively easily. Turns out Sonic Impact is very good at staggering bosses. The real challenge of the fight, however, comes from the final phase against Terranort. Not only is he one of the few bosses who can heal, and trust me, he will, he has access to his own sonic impact and seemingly always uses it if you slide even remotely in his general direction, which obviously makes this particular challenge a little difficult since he's almost fully invulnerable during his and you are not. After a very painful 5 minutes, the fight is over and we move on to Ventus. Ventus's story is the only one where you can start this challenge before his first world, save for the orbs that is, and this is because of the command board. If you're unfamiliar with this Mario Party game from hell, the objective is to buy and place as many commands as you can on the board while taxing your closest friends and family for profit. And it's a really good way to get commands much earlier than you're supposed to, so we use this strategy to get Ventus Thunder before he even starts his first world. Now, in order to get Thunder Roll, we first need to get Thundaga, once again showing how this challenge is somehow barely possible because acquiring one of almost any command unlocks it in the shop regardless of shop level, which typically only goes up when you beat a world boss. You can use the command board to get a lot of really good commands early, like Magnet, so I highly recommend trying it out if you ever want to pick the game up in the future. Just keep in mind that you need at least 5 times the price of another player's command if you want to buy it, because trust me, the game will not tell you, so you're welcome and good day. You don't even need to finish the game in order to unlock the commands in the shop, so after stealing Aqua's iPod Shuffle, we buy a few of our own and spend approximately 4 hours grinding in a level 1 world. After doing an entire Terra run with basically only Ice Slide, I was already pretty excited to have a better move, but I wasn't ready for the sheer amount of damage this move was capable of dishing out. Like, I swear this move is better than half the commands in the game sometimes. These fights went so much faster than in Terra's story that it's almost hard to say anything too interesting about them, but I am an entertainer and I will try my best. Bigger bosses don't tend to stagger as much in these games, but that actually works out pretty well because they're so large, you'll end up melting through their health pool without even realizing it. But the real fun from these commands is still their incredible stagger potential. These moves hit very fast and have high mobility, so once you hit something once, they'll usually never get a chance to break out before they run out of HP. Certain exceptions apply though, such as Maleficent and Vanitas, since they're both capable of breaking out of your combo through sheer willpower alone. The really funny thing about Vanitas is that every time you deal damage to him, there's a random chance that he'll pretend he didn't take the damage and teleport above you for a counterattack. And while it's certainly time consuming, the recovery time it takes for him to start another action is just not faster than the time it takes for us to start rolling around at the speed of sound. And it sets up one of the funniest stun locks I've ever seen in a video game. Hey look, Radiant Garden. This world has one of the coolest boss fights in the franchise, and also Lee. Olympus Coliseum presents possibly the hardest challenge I've ever had to face in this run, which was urns. Usually a couple Magnet 3s is enough to get the job done and then some, but in this challenge we are at the mercy of the game and Hercules. I still won in the end, but it was terrifyingly close at the start. Then we fight Countless Unversed, which is always fun, but Herc seemed very interested in performing a bros attack with us, and he didn't take no for an answer. After a failed attempt at vehicular manslaughter, we find ourselves in deep space, where Stitch is very angry and I forgot to make Ice Slide, which made this boss fight much longer than it needed to be. Thankfully, Thunder Roll's hitbox is super big though, so it wasn't too bad. Over in Neverland, we fight Captain Hook for an embarrassing amount of time until I discover this neat little trick right at the end of the fight. Ventus then proceeds to remember his deeply rooted trauma, develops even more trauma, and then gets probably the coolest looking Keyblade in the franchise. Ventus's final fights against Vanitas go pretty much the exact same as the first fight, but something strange happened during the last segment. Every time I tried to use Last Word to end the fight, it simply wouldn't. And it sparked the longest battle of attrition I have ever had the misfortune of participating in. I spent well over an hour trying to bash my head against this wall, which is far more Vanitas time than the average doctor recommends, only to learn from the all-knowing wizard that is Reddit that I have apparently been playing this game wrong for the past 12 years of my life. Apparently you need to use Last Word while Vanitas is performing an attack, just like all the other counterattacks you have to do in the fight to get Last Word in the first place, and I just managed to get really lucky every time before this. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad I know now for the future, but I was seriously considering calling my local priest to come take a look at my copy of the game at the time. But with Vanitas finally defeated, we move on to our last character of the run, and I will relive my Vanitas-induced trauma in my nightmares. Now, Aqua's story is definitely the most dense in the entire game, and this is because she gets 2 additional episodes after you beat the game, but ironically, her story was the one I got through the fastest. Aqua, by process of elimination, is the other character who doesn't get her alternate dodge until their second world, so we bid farewell to the orbs one final time, finish Castle of Dreams as best we can, and after a little bit of grinding, we start the run. Aqua fights a lot of the same bosses that Terra fights throughout his story, but they go much smoother due to Aqua having a more efficient means of dealing damage than Terra, and this is very noticeable. It's Aqua versus all of Reddit as we have to take out Maleficent's Goons squad, and for some reason the Maleficent fight went the fastest it has literally ever gone for me in my life. Makes me wonder why the speedruns never use this move. Back to Radiant Garden and we fight probably the coolest boss in the entire series, and you've probably caught on to the joke by now. It's also where Aqua fights Vanitas for the first time, and the cutscene that plays before this fight might unironically be the best one in the series. Like, it has no right going this hard. After definitely not losing in Fruitball, we attend the Dream SMP Festival and move on to Olympus Coliseum, where we get sexually harassed by Phil, personally rob Zack Fair of all his dignity, and try our best against Hades. We pretend this segment of deep space doesn't exist as we reach directly for the officer's gun, and suddenly we're in Neverland. We run in a big circle, kill Vanitas for calling Ventus names, and enjoy a nice popsicle with Lil Bro. Braig is about as manageable as he usually is, but having both Fire Wheel and Ice Slide makes the fight much faster than Terra's. Vanitas, however, gave me more trouble than I'd like to admit, but a win is a win, and we move on to the final episode, after a brief side quest in the Mirage Arena. Terranort returns once again to give the player yet another brain aneurysm, but if it can bleed, it can die. And in this case, it can stagger. Phase 2 is a different story though, as Terranort loses the ability to stagger, and we just have to keep throwing ourselves at the wall that is Terra's body until results are favorable. The secret episode exclusive to the final mixed version of this game has us playing as Aqua as she explores the Dark Realm. Enemies fold just as easily to the active hitbox that is Fire Wheel, and it ends with a brand new boss fight that ended much faster than I expected it to. And there you have it. Can you beat Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep with only movement commands? The answer is yes. Thank you for watching. Now, if I tricked you with that fake ending, then you have to subscribe now. I don't make the rules. And if you're knowledgeable about this game, then you'll know there are at least 2 secret boss fights that are readily available upon completion of the secret episode. Vanitas Remnant and Unknown, commonly referred to as Mysterious Figure. These 2 boss fights are some of the hardest in the series and push the limits of this game to the absolute maximum. So naturally, I got a little curious. Starting with Vanitas Remnant, as he's a direct prerequisite to the Mysterious Figure fight, this fight has a fun gimmick where the boss only has 1 health bar. And this might trick you into thinking it'll be easy, but that is a lie. Vanitas Remnant has extremely high resistances to all damage types, so he takes chip damage from pretty much all sources and will heal every time you cast Cure on yourself. So make sure you bring potions with you if you ever attempt this fight. On top of that, he also has obnoxiously high strength, so no amount of level grinding will help your defense match it. As this is a Vanitas fight, his iconic gimmick of manifesting that your damage simply never happened returns for this fight, and we use this gimmick to our advantage once again. I can't say for sure how consistent it is, or if it's entirely luck-based, but I found that whenever Vanitas Remnant teleports above you, he still has that same vulnerability that all other forms of Vanitas have, and we can use this move to trap him in an almost infinite loop where he retaliates with his Blizzard Edge over and over again. Seriously, these moves are really good at interrupting enemies in this game. Now, here it is. The final boss of bosses. A boss that I am very comfortable calling the hardest boss in all of video games, Mysterious Figure. This fight is borderline unfair, if I'm being honest. He's much faster than you, giving you very few opportunities to get real damage in, can heal if you're playing too aggressively, and while it's not as egregious as the later games, he can ignore your second chance and once more abilities. Yet despite all the things that are wrong with this fight, I love it. The presentation is immaculate, the music is bumpin', and the dopamine rush you get when you finally beat the fight is unparalleled. But I will admit, this fight requires patience. It will be a slow fight, and you will have moments where you're just dodging for your life, waiting for him to let you play the game. This fight alone took me almost 5 collective hours of gameplay to finish. Half of my Aqua save file was spent on this fight, and it had me wondering if this boss was even possible with this challenge. This is because Thunderroll and Firewheel have significantly less iframes than their standard counterparts, with those ones having over 6 times the iframes. Literally so many that they don't run out before the animation finishes, so as long as you're mashing dodge roll, you are fully invulnerable until you decide you're bored. So after about 4 hours of trying to make Firewheel work, I was on the verge of giving up until I accidentally hit him with Ice Slide and remembered Ice Slide is very good against this boss. It's not nearly as broken as some of the other things you can do in this game, but it sets up a pretty easy loop as long as you're fast enough and lucky enough to keep him in it. Just hit him once, wait for the teleport, and as he's running at you, hit him again. And after nearly 5 hours of bashing my head against this wall, it was finally done. And it would have been done much quicker if I had remembered to equip Cartwheel when I realized I had Ice Slide. So, once more with feeling, can you beat Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep with only movement commands? The answer is yes. Yes, you can. I'll be uploading the raw gameplay of this challenge over on my VODs channel, so if you're curious about the journey as a whole, then the link will be in the description, and if you liked what you saw and want to see more, then consider subscribing. I have so many other foul ideas in my head, and I am nowhere near close to stopping, so I hope to see you there in the future. Thanks for watching.